And these next three items, I basically got them to bundle these together, and I paid $10 for these three items. This is a Supreme Chuck of Chicago, Illinois, made in the USA, number 6B on a Morse taper. And it seems like it's in really good shape. There's a little bit of light surface rust, barely any on the taper. But other than that, it looks like it's in great shape. And then this is a live center from the Ready Tool Company of Bridgeport, Connecticut. So that's kind of interesting. It's not a Bridgeport. It's made in Bridgeport, Connecticut by the Ready Tool Company. The thing that I don't get on this is there's a threaded insert. There's a threaded piece that goes in the back here. You take this out, you get a threaded hole, almost like you would have a drawbar. But why would you have a drawbar for a live center? Or better yet, why would you bother having... Why is that in there? Or is this almost set like depth? No, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, maybe that sets this so that it can be knocked out by the quill when you back the quill out. I'm not sure. But it seems to be nice and smooth. It's not all chewed up. And then this tap wrench looked like a pretty decent tap wrench. I can't find any maker mark on it anywhere. It's engraved both in block lettering and script lettering, Baker, which I assume is the last name of the individual who either made this or owned it. This works really nice. It's a good sized, decent tap wrench. You know, I probably get a Greenfield about this size, but I figured no sense in leaving it there because somebody else would scrounge it for a couple bucks. Then on the workbench, I found this little set of punches. These punches were sold by the Penn Tool Company of Maplewood, New Jersey. Model number DPP-4, 8-piece pin drive pin punch set. It says India right there though, so these are just foreign import one. But you know, hey, I got these for $5, and I looked at them quick, and it looks like that one there and that one there have been used. This one is got a little bit of a bend to it, I think, but no, maybe not. So it only looks like two of these were really used that often. So it's actually in really good shape. And since it's a complete set, it's a handy little thing to have. Certainly worth $5 to me. And then these inserts were the only carbide inserts to be found in the whole damn place. And the lathe that he had there was so small, there was no way that these were going to be used on that. So these must be something he just brought home from work at some point or something. These are Kennametal TPG 433s, K42s. I'll throw these with the rest of my inserts that I have tons of, and you know, at some point I'll sit down and see if I've got any holders that will take these inserts. But I got them to throw these in for free with the punches, $5. Then there was a bandsaw there, but it wasn't a style that I liked. It was the 3-wheel bandsaw, wood cutting, benchtop model, and on the bench, which was wider, next to it, there was a motor bolted down, and then this was bolted down near it, but they weren't even connected. And so it almost looked like maybe he was in the process of maybe rigging something up to make something. And I said to the guy, I said, hey, I said, you want to sell me this this drive? And he's like, I think it's supposed to go with the saw. And I said, it has nothing to do with the saw. I said, I could just unbolt that in 5 minutes. I said, I'll give you $10 for it. He said, yeah, okay. So I got this drive, reduction drive, for $10. This is a Boston Gear drive. These are very expensive to buy new, relatively speaking, for what it is. But this is a reduction drive. I can't find anything on here to tell me what the reduction is. I don't know what the heck's going on here. I don't know if this was something somebody ground on this or what, but that just seems kind of weird. Somebody wrote in pencil right on here. They wrote for rotary. It says rotary table for drill press, etc. So I think that's what he was planning on making, some sort of a rotary table. And I don't know why he was gonna. I don't know if well, you couldn't really index with this thing. I wonder what he was gonna do with this thing. But I've got a couple of these, but not Boston ones. So if I have a project down the road that requires reduction, like my old SIP drill press project, this might be just the ticket, depending on what it pans out to be. And I spotted this Sears Craftsman drill bit grinding attachment. This helps you hold your twist drills at the proper angle for grinding on a bench grinder. And it looks brand new. The instructions are in there with it. I mean, I've got nothing other than a drill gauge and trying to do it freehand. So this might actually be a useful aid for me. Let's see, it says, looks like it goes up to 5/8 diameter drills. And they had $8 on this. I think I got this for $5 because I got it near the end of the day and nobody else had snagged it. Nobody else even, I think, looked at it. You can see it's brand new, I think, with the instructions in there and everything. Here's a nice little swivel base for a machinist vise, and the vise was nowhere to be found. So this sat there all day long, people looking at it, passing it back and forth, and this has a price of $15 on it, but this sticker matches the sticker that was on the collet rack for $85. So I think this is an old sticker also. So this thing sat there, and when the end of the day came, I said, you know, this thing's been here all day, nobody's been on it. I said, I'll give you $5 for it, and they took my $5. And the reason why I was willing to take a chance on this is I knew that I was positive I didn't have a vise that would fit this. I checked this whole thing, both sides, everything. It looked everywhere for markings. The only markings on it anywhere, other than of course the degrees, graduated degrees, is it's cast, stamped right into the casting, or it's right in the casting. It says 1A for P-1. See, 1A for P-1. Now, I figure that means that this is a part number 1A for a P-1 model vise. And I was hoping that I would be able to identify what vise this goes to. As a matter of fact, I was hoping that P-1 meant that it was a Palmgren vise. So I figured if Palmgren made a vise with the model number P-1, this may very well be the base for it. And if so, then I could throw this thing up on eBay and probably quadruple, if not more, my money for this thing. Well, unfortunately, I wasn't able to find any vices that have this model number. So you guys, Greg, if you're watching this, and you other guys who really know your stuff and can spot this stuff from a mile away, can you identify this? I'd love to know, because if I could positively identify this, I'll probably list it on eBay, and you know, then I can make some money to go buy some more junk. So around the time that I was wrapping up and getting ready to leave and putting together all my stuff and get ready to cash out, I approached the person running the show and had said to her that I had noticed that the lathe hadn't sold yet, and that I wasn't interested in the lathe, but that one of the chucks there I might be interested in. This chuck is a brand new chuck, and they had it sitting with the lathe, and they had a price on the lathe including the new chuck. So when nobody showed any interest in the lathe, or they weren't able to close a deal on the lathe, and you know, it was getting later in the day, she knew that ship was sailing, so to speak. She accepted my offer of $25 for this chuck. So I got a really good deal on this chuck. Now this chuck, it's that lathe I think was a 6-inch lathe. This chuck is a little itty bitty thing. You can see it. It's got a model number 3204-100. I looked this up, and apparently this is a Bison chuck, and apparently the 3204 is the series, and the -100 means that this is a 100 millimeter chuck. Now the thing that's interesting to me is I noticed that there were people that were actually selling jaws for this chuck separately. And you'll notice there's a set of outside jaws on the chuck right now, and the key is in there. Even the cap screws for the future plate. But there's also a set of outside chuck jaws. And I think these were extras that somebody had purchased at some point and just stuck in the box here. My theory, the reason why I have that theory is because you can't put this cover on and have it close up properly. The only way you could put this cover on for shipping is if you take these jaws out and put them in these slots. Well, there aren't enough slots to store 6 jaws. Why are there 4 holes? Well, I figure that they use the same packing. They probably ship 4 jaw chucks in the same exact setup, so they only make this configuration. And if it's a 4 jaw chuck, they store the 4 jaws and they ship it with no jaws in it. So I think that this is it's a hell of a bargain at $25 for a brand new 100mm chuck, Bison chuck, but also comes with the extra jaws. $25. I don't currently have a lathe small enough to handle a chuck this size, so that's probably going to be an eBay item. Even my 9-inch lathe really needs a chuck a little bit bigger than this. Here's an item that I got, and I bundled it with something, and I can't even remember what I bundled it with. So I think I'm into this thing probably for like, I don't know, $5 or whatever. But it's a quill handle, and it appears to be for a Bridgeport milling machine, but I'm not positive. But based on what I researched online, I can't find any maker mark on this anywhere. It's got this is a 1-inch bore, and it's got a little pointed tip set screw so that you would slide this onto the shaft. The shaft would probably have a groove in it, and then when you tighten that set screw in, that would keep this from being able to slide off the shaft. But then the whole handle basically pulls out, it's spring loaded, and that retracts this pin so that you can locate it to the next hole, so you can constantly reposition the handle to whatever is going to be the perfect setting for you to, to lower the quill manually. So it's just got just the slightest amount of scratches on it, but it was in a cabinet in this plastic bag, so I have every reason to believe that this is actually a new replacement quill handle. I don't know if it's foreign made or what, but it's completely different than the design that's used on the Wells Index mill, so I have absolutely no use for it. So this is an eBay item for sure. I've mentioned this in the past, but I'll mention it again just because it's a good tip. Don't overlook the chemicals and things that are in workshops and especially garages at estate sales, because estate sales, typically an estate sale is for the purpose of liquidating an estate. The house is getting ready to go on the market. They're trying to get that thing broom clean. Whatever doesn't sell at the estate sale, they're going to have to try and get rid of. Whatever they can't pawn off on the flea market guys or auctioneers or whatever, and doesn't get sold, has to go in a dumpster typically. And sometimes these chemicals, they don't know what to do with them, because some of the stuff you can't just get rid of, and they're going to have to pay for a disposal fee. Oil, of course, they could just give it away. But that being said, if you happen to be there and see it all the time, I see people just walk right by the shelf that has all the chemicals on it, or walk right by the boxes on the ground. So I come along here and I ask, I inquire about this. This was in the garage, and sure enough, I forgot what he wanted per item or whatever, and then I said, well, how about if I take the whole thing? $10. $10 bought me this whole box. I even got a couple of funnels that are in great shape. They look brand new. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 quarts of Synthetic blend motor oil, 20W50 motor oil, part synthetic, Castrol GTX. Oddly enough, this actually says it was $6.29 a quart, and it was marked down to $1.95 a quart, which is a pretty good deal. I don't know. I wonder where that was. Can't take out. I can't see a maker. I mean a store name or anything on these labels, but that alone was worth the $10. We got some ethanol fuel conditioner and stabilizer. We got some regular motor oil here. Transmission fluid, regular motor oil, that's a full quart. ATF, partial quart. This is Supertech, this brand right here. This is sold through Tractor Supply. This is a cheap motor oil. But, you know, like the old Oliver isn't going to care about what kind of motor. It's happy to see any kind of oil. Just leaks it out on the ground or burns it anyways. Full gallon automatic transmission fluid, Dexron 3, and a full gallon of gear oil, 80W90 gear oil from Supertech. So $10, good deal. So when I spotted that in the garage and bought it, that reminded me that I saw more stuff, chemicals in the basement that I had pretty much ignored like everybody else does. So I went back down there and put together this box. That guy was a little tougher to deal with. I forgot what he wanted. 12 bucks or something like that, or 10. I said, so I got a big box in the garage for 10. So finally, he took $5 for this. This is feels pretty full white lithium grease. Another white lithium grease, feels full. Premix, exact mix, two-stroke oil. This is for mixing with your gas for your chainsaw. You take this whole contents and dump it right into a gallon for a perfect 50-to-1 mixture. And let's see, four unopened quarts of motor oil. Castrol Super Outboard Oil, that has been opened but it feels almost full. And then CLP Brake Free. You guys are into your guns, you'll know what this is. If you're in the military, you'll know what this is. The first time I ever saw Brake Free was in the Army. This is what we used to clean the M16s and keep them carbon free and corrosion free. Good stuff. $5 for that box. So there was a storage cabinet there. There was a storage cabinet there that had a bunch of small drawers, and I looked through all the drawers and they were loaded with all kinds of stuff, and they wanted to sell that cabinet with the contents. I think they started out around like $90 and probably could have got it for 50, but the reality was the size and style of the cabinet, I didn't really have a place to put it. Not that that stopped me before, but I was also, you know, at this point I had spent quite a bit of money already. So I said to the person running the show, I said, hey, you know what? In these drawers there's some pieces of steel, just some cut-off pieces. I could use them for small projects and things like that. In my workshop, I said, how about I put together a bucket full of that stuff, and we just figure out a price. And she agreed to that. So I went through the shop and I picked out all of the pieces of metal that were laying around in the drawers and whatnot, and put together this little pile right here. So I got a couple nice drops in here, and rounds, and some little pieces of stock here. This is marked oil hardened. This is Starrett. Starrett oil hardening. Anyways, so I got some stuff to play around with, and then in the other room on the shelf, I found this plastic, something wrapped up in this plastic that was heavy. I thought it was just a big plate of steel, so I grabbed it. When I got it home and I unwrapped it, it's a lapping plate. I believe that's what they call this. Cast iron. It's a cast iron lapping plate, and must be a shop made one because it's got the initials on here that match the initials I found stamped on some of the other items around. But you know, the professionally made ones of these are pretty expensive, and I don't actually know how to use one of these, but I know it has something to do with like lapping a very precision fine, smooth surface. I want to say I think you're supposed to put some sort of a powder or some kind of stuff on here and rub the part that you want to lap on here. Does that make sense? You guys are probably laughing right now that I don't know what the hell to do with this, but I know not to throw it away for scrap. Knew that much. The other just metal things hanging around that I was able to add to this lot ended up being 2 pairs of shop-made parallels. These are actually pretty nicely ground. These don't appear to be marked other than stamped with the initials again, but they're so super smooth that they practically stick together. They've got some kind of wax or something on them. These also super smooth. These, somebody took the time to actually mark them on the end, 3/4 by 1. So these are 3/4 by 1 inch. So these definitely, I'm not going to use these for raw material. I'll keep these and put them with my other parallels and other, you know, for use in the vise and stuff like that. So those are nice. And then this thing here, all wrapped up in newspaper, all well taken care of. I ripped open the end and just saw that it was a nice big piece of steel. So I grabbed that and added it to the pile because nobody else wanted it. If I slide this out, you can see that somebody took the time to make something. It's got 2 holes for cap screws, countersunk, counterbore holes. So this almost looks like it was a straight edge or something for on a machine or something. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Now it's just a nice, good sized hunk of steel bar that I could use for something. Oh, not sure if I mentioned it, but so all that steel that I just showed you, 25 bucks for the whole lot. And that brings us to the final item. This is something I saw in the photographs when I first saw the listing, and it was going to be one of my priority items when I got there. But when I first got there, the lady who was running the show, her first thought was that she didn't think we were going to be able to get this thing out of there because it was in the garage, but it was sitting on top of a makeshift base made out of particle board and wood posts. And then on top of it, it had 2 layers. It had a bench top made on top of it, made out of 2 layers of 3/4 inch thick particle board. And it weighed a ton. And it seemed like it was all bolted together or something, or at least that's what they thought. And I assured them that I only wanted the cabinet and that I could take it all. I'd be willing to go through the trouble of taking it apart. All of the drawers were loaded with hand tools, all wrenches, you know, all your everyday, no machinist tools, just regular hand tools. None of the really high-end stuff, no Snap-on or Blue Point or Matco or any of that stuff. Just regular old tools. And I said, I'm not interested in the tools. I said, as a matter of fact, I said, I'd be willing to let this thing sit here all day while I look around at other stuff, and you can just sell the tools off as they come. She wanted $100 for this thing, and I wasn't comfortable paying that. So what ended up happening was, last thing I bought, last thing of the day, went back over and said to her, I said, I'm still interested in this thing if you want. She said, well, what are you willing to do? I said, I'll give you $50 for it. And she said, you'll take it apart and take it with you today? I said, absolutely. And she said, okay. So I got this for $50. And what this is this is a blueprint cabinet. This is a cabinet that would have been used in a factory or any number of different places where they needed to have either blueprints or probably in this case mechanical drawings. Back before they had CAD/CAM, boys and girls, or CAD, before they had any of that, all of those things that needed to be made were made off of dimensions and measurements and instructions found on drawings that were hand drawn. And where did all those drawings get stored? They got stored in cabinets like these. And this particular one, turns out, the top wasn't bolted on at all. The reason why it felt so heavy was just because the particle board is just so damn heavy. And it doesn't make for a very sturdy top. So the reality is, the particle board, took that off, lifted that off, and once I lifted that off, I found out the dirty little secret about this thing. And the dirty little secret is that there's no top to it. This is actually probably a center section of a much larger cabinet. So it's got this metal channel right here that actually helps it lock into the one that would have been above it. So once I took the wooden top off, basically this is all wide open to the first drawer. So it's gonna require some sort of cabinet for me to reconstruct something, either make a new top for it or something. I haven't quite figured out exactly what I'm gonna do with it yet. But it's kind of a neat cabinet, so it's kind of hard to appreciate what a nice cabinet this is. But just to give you an idea, here's my arm. This thing's got to be easily 33 inches deep. The drawers are full extension drawers, or I think they're full extension. They're really good draw sliders. It seems to work really well. And this thing's about probably about 17 inches high, but it's wide. It's got to be about 44 inches wide. Okay, so I was able to move the cabinet a little bit in front of it there, so you can get a little bit better of a look. But it's got that that OD green, olive drab army color there, and it's got the little placards for putting the different information and what was stored in there. But there was also partitions in here made out of particle board. I took all those out and threw them away. The mice had figured out a way to get in there, and there was mouse poop all over a lot of that wood that was in there, so I threw that all out. Actually, they were kind enough to let me leave that all there. I didn't have to take it with me. They were going to get a dumpster to clean out what was left in that house anyways. So that was the last item I bought, and that was the $50. And that's it. That's going to close out this series on the estate sale. It's one of the nicest sales I've been to in a while, and it was pretty close to home, which worked out really well. Take care.